Hi and welcome to this tutorial video for the Awl Trousers. They are easy to make and perfect for everyday wear. They have a baggy feel with a dropped crotch, but the shaping at the back keeps them looking really nice on. I love their subtle barrel-shaped leg, which gives them a cool modern silhouette. They're designed to sit low on the waist and feature an elasticated waistband with a drawcord, inseam side pockets which are top-stitched through the front, and an elongated back pocket for extra practicality. The pattern includes 3 different length options. The full length has a button tab at the hem, which means you can play around with the shape. Tying it at the front or the back gives you 2 different looks. The cropped version hits the leg at the ankle and doesn't feature buttons. And the shorts are bermuda length and have a relaxed, oversized fit. In this tutorial, I'll be making version 1, the full-length trousers, but the steps are exactly the same for the other 2 versions if you leave up the button tabs. Here's what you'll need to make the trousers. Your main fabric. Here I'm using a lightweight cotton canvas, which is perfect for this pattern. I will use self fabric as pocketing as my fabric is rather thin, but you might want to get pocketing fabric for the pocket bags as well. A small piece of fusible interfacing, which will be used to reinforce the fabric where you'll make buttonholes. 2 cm wide soft elastic for the waist, some tape or cord for the waist drawcord, 4 buttons of around 20 mm diameter if you're making the full length version, 1 spool of normal sewing thread matching the main fabric. If you're using an overlocker, you will need 4 extra spools in the same color, and optionally 1 spool of top stitching thread in tonal or contrasting color. The first thing you're going to do is to cut out your paper pattern and your fabric. You should follow the cutting instructions written on each piece and place the grain line parallel to the selvage of the fabric. So you can measure at the top and at the bottom of the grain line to ensure that it's parallel to the selvage. Then use pins to keep the pattern in place and cut around each piece. Once all your panels are cut out, cut the notches out. The notches are those little triangles on the pattern, and you should snip your fabric for about 3 mm wherever you see one of these. You will also need to mark the pockets and buttonholes placements. For this, I am poking pins through the pattern on the buttonhole position and corners of the pocket placement. Then marking both on the right side of the fabric with some chalk. On the back panel, mark the buttons position if you're making version 1, and the back patch pocket position on the right side of the right back leg. Finally, you should add fusing to reinforce the fabric at the buttonholes position. If you're making version 1, add fusing to the wrong side of the button tabs. And add a little rectangle of fusing around 2.5 by 2 cm on the wrong side of the front legs, matching with the buttonhole position. Press with the iron to fuse the interfacing in place. If you're making version 1, start by folding the buttonhole tabs on the fold line, right side against right side. You will then stitch both sides with 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Start and end the stitch with some back stitches. Then you will trim away the corners right until the stitch, but careful not to cut the thread. Then turn the tabs inside out, push out the corners carefully, and press flat with the iron. Next, you will make the buttonholes. Always test out the size of your buttonhole before making them on the garment. You will need the buttonhole to be long enough for your button to go through. I like to leave extra thread length and secure the thread by hand, as my machine's buttonhole tend to come undone otherwise. I just thread them through a needle, bring them to the wrong side of the buttonhole, knot them together, then sink the threads inside the buttonhole stitches. Finally, you'll need to slit your buttonholes open carefully. Next, you will make the buttonholes on the front panels exactly the same way. Next, you will make the back pocket. Start by finishing the sides and bottom edges of the pocket with an overlock or a zigzag stitch. Fold in 1 centimeter at the top to the wrong side and press with the iron. Then fold at the top fold line, right side against right sides, and stitch the sides with 1 centimeter of seam allowance. From the top of the pocket to the end of the fold. Start and end the stitch with some back stitches. Trim the corners away . And turn the top fold to the inside. Press the top fold with the iron. and fold in 1 centimeter of seam allowance around the rest of the pocket. Now you're going to stitch the fold into place at 4 centimeters from the top edge. Change the thread on your machine to a thicker top stitching thread if you're using one. Then close the top pocket fold at 4 centimeters from the edge, starting and ending with some back stitches. Pin the pocket in place on the right side panel of the back leg. Top stitch in place at 1 millimeter from the pocket edge and start by making a rectangle top stitch at the top corners to reinforce them. When you need to turn, ensure your machine needle is down into the fabric before pivoting your work. Take your front panels and a pair of side pockets cut out of lining fabric. For this tutorial, the fabric I'm using is very light, so I'm using the main fabric as lining. Place the pocket bag linings on the front panels, right sides together, matching up the pocket opening notches. Mark with chalk a half rectangle from notch to notch at 1 centimeter away from the edge. Then you will stitch along the line you have just drawn in a half rectangle, starting and ending the stitch with some back stitches. Remember to keep your needle down into the fabric when you turn. Now with small scissors, you will snip diagonally on each corner, right until the stitch, but being careful not to cut the thread. Next, you will overlock or zigzag on the edge of the seam allowance. Press the seam allowance, then turn the pocket lining to the inside and press the pocket opening flat. Top stitch the pocket opening at 5 mm from the edge. Again, here you can use top stitching thread if you want a slightly thicker top stitch. Place the pocket bag cut out of main fabric against the pocket lining, wrong sides together, and pin around the side and bottom edges. Stitch around the side and bottom edges of the pocket bag with 5 mm of seam allowance. Start and end the seam with some back stitches. Turn the pocket bag inside out. And press so the seam sits right on the edge. Lay the pocket bags flat against the front leg panel and pin them together at the side seam. Sew a stay stitch within the seam allowance to keep all layers together. You will now top stitch the pocket bags through to the front leg. If you do not want this top stitch to be visible on the outside of your trousers, you can top stitch around the edge of the pocket bag only with 7 mm of seam allowance. This will encase the fraying edge of the fabric inside. If you want to have a visible top stitch at the pocket, then make sure the pocket bag is laying flat behind the front leg panel and hold it in place with a few pins. You will have transferred the pocket top stitching line from the pattern with chalk earlier. With a top stitching thread, if you're using one, top stitch from the right side of the front leg, catching the pocket bag underneath. Start and end the stitch with some back stitches. If you're doing version 1, place the buttonhole tab right side against right side of the front leg, where indicated by the notches at the bottom of the leg. Keep in place with a stay stitch at 0.5 cm from the edge. Place the front and back legs right sides together and pin the side seam. When it comes to the pocket opening, make sure you are not catching the front, not to close the pocket. So you're going to stitch right next to the front panel, but only catching the pocket bag. For version 1, the buttonhole tab will be sandwiched in between the front and back legs. Stitch with 1 cm of seam allowance, starting and ending with a few back stitches. When it comes to the pocket opening, open the front slightly to avoid catching it in your seam. Now you can overlock or zigzag the seam allowance. And press it towards the back. Add a top stitch on the back leg at 1 mm from the side seam, from the waist until the end of the pocket bag. This will hold the seam allowance towards the back. If you're using a thicker top stitching thread, you can also use it here. Next, you will finish the crotch and inleg edges by overlocking or running a zigzag stitch on the edge. Place the front and back legs right sides together and pin the inleg seam together. Close the seam with 1 cm of seam allowance, starting and ending with some back stitches. Press the seam open with the iron. Now take one of the legs and turn it inside out. Then place it inside the other so they are facing right sides together. Pin the crotch seam, matching the front and the back, and the inleg seam. You will leave a small gap on the back to insert the elastic later. The gap should start at about 1 cm from the top edge and end before the notch. stitch the crotch seam with 1 centimeter of seam allowance, starting and ending with some back stitches. Then press the seam allowance open with the iron. Now you will finish the waist by creating a channel at the top of the trousers. First, fold 1 centimeter from the edge towards the wrong side and press with the iron. Then fold again on the notches, which are at 2.75 centimeters from the first fold. Press with the iron. Then pin around the waist from the right side. You might find it easier to first baste the waist channel in place before top stitching it to make sure you will catch it with your top stitch. With top stitching thread, top stitch the waist channel from the right side of the trousers at 2.5 centimeters from the edge. Start at the center back and with some back stitches. Now check that you've cut the channel all the way around the waist and remove the basting thread if you were using it. You would have cut the elastic following the pattern and can now insert it inside the channel from the gap left at the center back using a safety pin. Safety pin both ends of the elastic together, overlapping them by 2 centimeters on each side. You can now try on your trousers and adjust the elastic length on yourself. When you're happy with the fit, stitch both sides of the elastic together by overlapping them flat and top stitching a box stitch. Insert your drawcord or tape inside the channel through the front buttonholes using a safety pin. Adjust the tape so the same amount is hanging from both sides. I leave about 15 centimeters. And make sure the elastic is evenly distributed through the waistband. Then top stitch the waistband vertically in the center front and center back seam to fix the tape and keep the elastic from twisting. When top stitching the center back, you will close the gap left open earlier. You are top stitching in the middle of the seam, making it almost invisible. This is called a sink stitch. Finish the ends of your tape by folding them in twice and top stitching. You will now finish the hem by first folding 4.5 centimeters to the wrong side and pressing with the iron. Then unfold the hem and fold half of the hem allowance so it meets the first fold line created. Top stitch from the right side of the trousers at 2 centimeters from the edge, making sure you are catching the hem fold. If you're doing version 1, you have one last step to complete, stitching on the buttons. There are 2 buttons on the back of each leg. You can find their position on the pattern. Stitch your chosen buttons on and you are done making your trousers. And this is what your finished Awl trousers will look like, with the clean waistband finish and overlocked seams, the top stitch pockets, and button details for version 1. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and making the Awl trousers with me. I would absolutely love to see your versions. Please tag me on Instagram at Àlamain_studio and use the hashtag Awl Trousers so I can admire your makes. I hope you enjoy wearing your new trousers and I'll see you soon.